Hi again, YouTubers. So this is one of my most requested videos, and this is my foundation routine. It is my liquid, my concealer, my powder, my bronzer, my blush, and a little bit of highlight. This is something that I do not every day, but like during days on weekends. It's not something I do at night if I'm gonna look for a more contoured look or anything like that. This is just a really basic foundation look that I do. So I hope you enjoy it. All right, so the first thing I start with when I'm doing my foundation is when I get out of the shower, when I wake up in the morning, no matter what the case, after I've washed my face, is I put on my under eye cream, I put on my serum, moisturizer, whatever I'm using at that point, and then I tend to pull my hair back, whether it's wet or dry. I always put a little headband on and a little hair clip just to get it out of my face because I don't like having my hair on my face as I do my foundation or my makeup. It's just my way of doing it. And as you can see, this is my face with no foundation and no makeup on, other than I do have some eye makeup that I put on just so I have something. Otherwise my eyelashes are very light and it just kind of loses dimension. So I did put eye makeup on. I have no under eye concealer. I have no foundation, powder, anything like that on my face. And so after I'm done those things and I let them sink into my face, the next thing I tend to do is I put a primer on. Now, I have all different primers, guys. I'm always testing different ones. I'm doing different ones. I'm using different ones. I'm trying different ones with different products. And so I just take any primer. This is one of my favorites. It's the MAC Prep and Prime SPF 50. And I just put a dime size amount on my hands. I rub it together and I kind of like tap it all over my face. I have it on now. Sometimes I put an under eye primer on. Other times I just use whatever the product is I'm doing. One thing I do before I start any foundation as well is I put on a lip treatment, just something that moisturizes my lips. Max Tinted Lip Conditioner. I love my Cover FX, what is this called? Mint Glaze Moisturizing Lip Treatment and Mint Primer. It's a primer for your lips. I already put this on today, actually, the Cover FX one. And then I put on, I like this, there's mixed results out there about it. It's called Smashbox Photo App, and it's an under eye brightener. And I just put a little dot of it before I start anything, or a little swipe of it, I guess. And I just tap it on under my eyes. And this, to me, I have fairly dark circles, and it kind of helps just bring the light in under there so it's not as dark under my eyes. So I just use this. I like it. Some people do, some people don't. And the next thing I do is I take on my vanity here under a candle is I have a little mirror. And you can, some people use CDs, people use all different types of things for this, but I just use this little mirror because it sits under my candle and it's easy to use. And today I'm going to be using my Chanel Pro Lumiere. The NARS Sheer Glow is another favorite of mine, but that, I like it with a brush, but it also does well with your fingers. Some people think you should just use it with your fingers. So I'm going to use my Chanel because of the fact of the matter that it's just an easy one that I love. So I just take it and I put 2 pumps, not big pumps, onto my mirror. And I just set it down in front of me. And then I take a flat top kabuki. Now, guys, if you watch my old foundation video, I have almost always, I try tons of different brushes. I like all different types of brushes, but the ones I always seem to go back to are a flat top kabuki brush. I have tons of them. And I will say that that's another thing. This is my favorite one that I have ever tried. It's by Sigma. It's the SS197. And it's not particularly because of the coverage. It's not particularly about anything. It's because it doesn't shed. Every other flat top kabuki brush I have has shed. This one doesn't. So I just take the brush and I just tap it a little bit on the edge and I kind of move it around a little bit to kind of get it on the brush. And then I always start at my cheeks because my cheeks are my reddest. So I start here and I just kind of tap it onto my face. And you guys can see my neck is, I've mentioned this before, my neck is a different color than the rest of my body because than my face, because I do use self tanners, but on my face I use Retin-A and a Retin-A prescription lotion and other things that kind of keep the color, it doesn't keep the color. It doesn't allow the color to stay on my skin with self tanners and things like that. So I just use a foundation that matches. Oops, I have a piece of hair stuck there. There it is. I keep a foundation, this one little piece of hair, a foundation that matches my neck is the best way to go about it. And as you can see, I'm just kind of tapping, stippling, whatever word you want to use. I should have started on my lip then. To tap the foundation onto my skin. And it gets in really good into little areas. And I just keep doing the same thing. I keep going back into my foundation on the little mirror, and I just keep tapping it into areas that I feel like need a little bit more coverage. Now, my forehead has always been a problem area for me with sunspots and things like that. So it's why I tend to like medium to buildable coverage foundation. Boy, that one hair does not want to stay today. So that is why I like the Chanel, because of the fact of the matter that it gives me really great coverage and just evens out my skin tone. And I blend it down into my neck and onto my ears just a little bit, and make sure that I'm blending out into the hairline. Now, after you've gone through and stippled like that, you can swirl it on if you feel the need. I don't really, I kind of do a little bit of both as I'm going along. I kind of tap it in and I swirl it in certain spots. I don't keep it away from my under eyes, but I don't go all the way up underneath my eye either. A little bit left there, just on the edge of my nose. So that's my foundation with no powder. Now the next step that I tend to do, and I have a towel on my, that I always keep on my lap, and I'm wiping my mirror off so it's clean, and then I put it back underneath my candle. And then what I tend to go to, the next thing I tend to go to is I go for an under eye corrector. The one that is my favorite is the Bobbi Brown corrector, not the concealer, the corrector. I also have a Trish McEvoy one that's like a pink pencil. Benefit's Eye Bright is a great one. Sometimes there's kind of mixed results, or not mixed results, mixed thoughts on this. You can either use a brush or you can use your fingers in order to get the coverage you want under your eye. Your finger warms up the product, which helps it melt in better. However, a brush puts on a thinner layer of it. So I kind of do a combination of both. This is my Bare Escentuals Maximum Coverage Concealer Brush, and I love this little brush, and all I do is I just tap it in. I don't even think you can see that. This is the corrector, and this is the pink one, and I simply just put it where the dark spots are. Okay, so you can see that difference right there. You don't put this all the way under your eyes. You just put this where you have the darkness, because it's a color corrector. It has a pink undertone to it. So it's correcting any spots that are dark. Okay, so now that I've done that, I just take my finger and I just tap it into my skin so that it's not moving around in those areas. So I'm just tapping that in very lightly. And hopefully you can see, guys. I know my lighting's kind of bright, but I wanted to make sure that you were seeing everything that I was doing with this. And I've been working on my lighting for possibly trying tutorials and things like that, but kind of back and forth on whether I like it or not. Then I take a concealer. Again, I have tons of different concealers. I have a Cargo one, I have a Estee Lauder one, I have a Bobbi Brown one, but I always seem to grab for my Estee Lauder Maximum Coverage. Now, this I believe has been discontinued, but you can find it at CCO's. It's a maximum coverage camouflage makeup for face and body. It is made to cover tattoos. I have it in the color Creamy Tan. Oh, by the way, my Bobbi Brown is in the color Bisque. And what I do, this bottle will last me forever. Like, it's crazy. And it's good for 24 months. All I do is I squeeze a little bit up, get it on my finger, and then I go back through over those areas, and I come down into a triangle, and that diffuses the light and pulls the light down on your face, so that way it's actually drawing your eye down, or someone else's eye down, I guess is the best way to put it, that is looking at your face. So that's one. Oops, I got too much out on that one. And then I do the same thing on the other eye. And again, I'm just lightly tapping this, and I put a little bit into like where my tear duct is, because that area is lighter as well, and most times I end up putting a highlighter there. But I just keep tapping until it's in completely and it looks nice and just conform to my face and it doesn't look cakey or anything like that, or you don't see any lines. So I just keep tapping with that until, and it warms up and it just kind of helps with your face, with the blending into your face with your finger. The next thing I do is I take a powder for setting under my eyes, now specifically under my eyes, and I use the Benefit Powder Flage. I also, by the way, have a powder from Clinique. I'm gonna do a comparison on this. It's called No. 2 Transparency, that has a pink tone to it as well, because I have heard rumblings of Benefit discontinuing Powder Flage, but I've also heard that they're not. I personally, I've tried the little 224 brushes, like a lot of people say, and the Powder Flage comes with a horrible brush. But I actually take a makeup sponge and just lightly, oops, I just made a mess of that. Lightly tap it into this powder on the edge. And then I just place it under my eye and down through that triangle very, very slightly. You don't need much of this. Now, the good thing about the Powder Flage is the fact that it has silica powder in it, so it doesn't settle into fine lines. So that's really my only complaint with the Clinique, is it doesn't have that. So that's all I do. And that kind of sets it, and the silica powder helps it so that it doesn't settle into fine lines and things like that. The next thing I do is I take my Origins powder, and this is at the end of this one. It's my multi-grain powder by Origins, and I love this stuff, guys. If you've seen my review on this, it's amazing. And I just kind of tap it against my wrist or on my vanity to get it to tap out upside down into the sifter. It's a little bit difficult for some reason. It doesn't always come out as easily as a lot of products you see that are like this, but if you can see my cap, that's all I really need to do my entire face. It doesn't take much. And I take the brush that Origins made for this. However, I've used my Kabuki, I've used a 150 brush. They all work fine. I just personally want a light dusting of powder. I don't want a really heavy one, so I don't use a Kabuki, because this foundation gives me enough coverage. So I just kind of barely tap in. You can see there's a lot left on there. And I start with my forehead, because my forehead is what gets the shiniest with me. And as you can see, I'm just lightly putting this on. It's not like I'm putting a lot of product on. And I swirl this in a little bit, and it takes away the shine and just really helps with evening everything out and giving you a nice finish. Oops. There we go. And then on my nose, my lips. Cute. And I just kind of, as I do this, I just kind of swirl it around so that it works it out properly. So I just kind of keep going over until I feel like, and as you can tell, I didn't get a whole lot. I mean, this is empty now, but it's not like I had a whole lot on the lid or on my face. So that's kind of where I finish as far as that. Another little trick that was taught to me that I do is after I'm done this portion right here, is I take a Q-tip, okay, and I run it under my eyes where the fine lines are. And the reason I do this, and they say to run it towards your tear duct, and I usually flip it over and do the same thing, and just very lightly, because this also helps to remove any excess product from the fine lines that you have under your eyes. So that works really well for me. Now, I should have gotten these things out. I didn't think ahead of this. I'm gonna show you guys a really quick just how I do my face, my contouring, things like that. Not my contouring, I'm sorry, my bronzer and things like that. I tend to use my MAC 138 brush for my bronzer because it gives me a nice light look of it. It is very easy to not just contour your face with this because of the shape of the brush. It kind of gives you a nice bronze look at the areas you want. I just lightly tap my brush. This is my NARS Laguna, and you can see the product on the brush. I tap it off, and then I go right where the hollows of my cheek are and up onto my forehead, okay? I do it again for the other side in the same areas, and I blend down over my nose and under my chin. And I just kind of play with it a little bit to get it the way I want. And even it out over your ears a little bit, just so everything is blended in, okay? So then I tend to, if I want just an everyday look. I'm not gonna do contouring. I'm not gonna do all of those different things. I tend to do, I take my MAC Cream Color Base in Hush, and you can see, guys, there's like next to nothing left in this thing. And with Hush, I just take my finger and I rub it back and forth. That's about all I get on my finger, and I just tap it right where the top of my cheekbone is. Same thing for the other side, very, very lightly. From my cheek, right where the apple of my cheek is, up into a C shape, okay? And you should be able to slightly see that, okay, going right through there. Now, don't worry about it getting blended perfectly yet, because you can then work with it you'll be able to work with it, I'll show you. It's not gonna show up as much after you put a blush on. I'm just grabbing a blush of mine. This one is a favorite. It's Cargo's blush in Tonga. I know Sephora stopped carrying Cargo, but I love these products. This is Tonga. And I take my MAC 129 brush, just a nice face brush. I just tap it into the product again. You can see it there. I tap it off. Then I start where the apple of my cheek is, and I just kind of fluff around and up into my hairline to get the color I want. Smile, dumb, what do they call it? Dumb blush smile. I put a little bit up at my hairline of my top of my forehead, just to give you that, you know, look of evenness, and you want to make sure that the colors are carried out throughout your face. So that is my blush. So I'm pretty much, for the most part, I'm done with just a basic everyday look. Pull my hair down a little bit. It's kind of a mess today, but wow, it really is a mess today. All right, we're gonna pull that back. So that is my basic overview. It's been requested for a lot. You guys have asked me many a times to do this. It took me a while just to get to a point where the lighting was okay, and that you would be able to see properly what I have on my face. So I think this is a good representation. Put a little bit of gloss on when I'm done. This is just really, I don't wear liquid foundation every single day, but this is just a good, like, everyday weekend type of look. This isn't something I do at night. At nighttime, I tend to contour and do more defined looks, but this is just a really, really good everyday type of look. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions on anything you saw here. A lot of these products I already have reviews on, so just let me know if you have any questions on any of the steps I take. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a great day. Bye.